Okay, I shall begin. Yes, because to cover. So, one second. Okay, so in the last class we looked at stacks and an application. So stacks are very important in computer science because not only that parsing example that we saw, lots of examples involve. It's a very useful abstraction, and in fact, uh, stack is integral to how programs run in a computer. Okay, so check out what is called a system stack. Okay. Uh, when you make function calls, the system itself uses a stack to store information about functions. And then when a function, yeah, it will pop from the stack, etc. You can read about the system stack, so on. So stack is important. So is queue. Queue is also a very widely used data structure. It's a simple concept. Okay, in a stack, elements are pushed and popped at the top or at one end. In a queue, elements are pushed in one end and popped at the other end. It's just like a queue in a bank counter or somewhere, any counter in maybe a food counter or whatever. People join at the tail and people exit at the head. I shouldn't say tail, I should say rear, because in Haskell, tail means anything but the head. So people join at the rear, people exit out of the front. Okay. Yes, so rear and head elements are added at the rear and removed from the head. So it's very trivial to implement a stack as a queue. So you do the same thing. You will store it in a module, export only the type constructor name and not any of the value constructors. Okay, there is one value constructor, namely queue. The type constructor is also called queue. Yes, and adding an element to the queue is called enqueuing, and removing an element from a queue is called dequeuing. Enqueue you have to add at the rear. So you say if your queue is excess, then you have to do plus singleton x. Okay, and dequeuing is nothing. If the queue is x colon x's, you just present x as well as the remainder of the queue. Okay, so dequeuing is simple. Enqueuing has a time penalty because you have to add at the end. Empty queue is just the queue with just contains the empty list, and checking whether something is empty is just checking whether a queue is null or not. So let's go ahead and create a queue.hs. Okay, good. So now let's create a queue.hs. I'll say module queue, and then this is the name of the type constructor, and I'll have to enqueue, dequeue, create an empty queue, check whether it's empty. Maybe you want a method to create a queue from a list, so you call it from list, where data QA is nothing but queue listing. Yes, deriving queue. I want to show a method, so what I'll do is I'll just keep it simple. I'll say instance show queue. So, and I'm just saying show of your pattern will be some QXs. I'm just saying equals. Or I mean, why do you do all this? I'll just say show Xs. Yes. Okay. Good. So let's be mildly fancy. So something like this. So then you need to this thing, and this thing need not be data, it could just be new type, right? And then NQ is what? NQ is of type A arrow.
Sir, XS is just character A, right?
What do you mean by XS is just the character A?
So I mean, XS is not a list, right? It's just A.
This is a list of type A. Because see, note that the type constructor is applied on a type A, the value constructor is applied on a list of type A.
Okay, okay.
Right? Okay.
Okay, sir.
So if A belongs to the type class show, automatically list A belongs to the type class show. So I can do a show XS. Okay. Fine.
So the show XS is itself type string.
Yes, show XS itself is a type string. Yes, yes.
Okay.
So NQX in Q of XS. X DQ QA arrow A comma QA. We will not do safe programming, etc. So we'll say that DQQ. If you try to DQ from an empty queue, I'm just going to say error. Otherwise, your the internal list in the queue is of the form X colon XS. It is just X comma QXS, right? And that's basically it. So empty is empty is just checking whether the internal queue, the internal list is null. Okay, great. So this is all done. And from list. Can somebody tell what from list is?
Converts list to queue.
Yeah, it is list to queue. It is just queue. Queue is the value constructor. I'm not exporting the value constructor explicitly, but I'm just doing this. You will see now in this case that there will be a difference. Okay, fine. So I've done this. It's going into the indexing mode. Okay, so you have done all this. Now there is a problem, which is that each NQ will take order n time because you have to do a plus plus x. You see, and this plus plus takes order takes time proportional to the length of the list. So if you do a bunch of n operations, half of which is NQs, then you will end up consuming roughly order n squared time. You don't want to do that. Okay, so a neat idea is to say that, okay, let me split the queue in the middle. Okay, so if I have a queue of this form, so let us say this is my queue. Okay, so just notice my cursor. You will add at, if I want to add, I'll add at the end. If I want to remove, I'll go and remove from the front. Okay, so assume that always I'll be at the front. Every time you have to add, you have to go to the end. Okay, I have to move the cursor to the right. That's a problem. Okay, instead what you do is you split. So you maintain instead of one list, two lists. Okay. Except that this is my front, this is my rear. Okay. So your original, so this is front. Okay. You want to maintain it as follows. Instead of maintaining Q, let me call it, maintain front and back, two lists. Such that Q equals always front plus rear of back. Sorry, reverse of that. The front part of the list and the back part of the list. The back part is maintained in reverse. Now, what will NQ of Q be? NQ, if I want to NQ X inside Q, it is what? Can somebody tell me?
Sir, X front, X colon front.
Why X colon front? I want to NQ at the end, no?
Oh, then X colon back.
No, what do you mean by colon back? No, wait. So just write out your thing. No, is basically Q plus singleton X. Okay, just derive it. No, why speculate? Right? To NQ, I should add at the end. So it is Q plus X. But Q itself is nothing but front plus reverse of back. Front plus reverse of back. Plus X. Oh, but what is reverse of back plus X? So originally the parenthesization is this way, but you know that plus is associative. So it doesn't matter which way you parenthesize. So you parenthesize the other way. But what is reverse of any list plus a single element?
NQ of that and the.
No, don't think of NQ. Just talk about reverse.
The reverse of that element called on the list.
Exactly. So it is front plus reverse of X colon back. Right. So now coming back to when you are maintaining your Q as two lists. Okay. So if you are maintaining your list as two lists, then NQ of X in front comma back should be what?
Front comma X colon back.
Exactly. Front comma X colon back.
Sir, I didn't understand this front and back concept. Could you explain that again?
Yeah. The front and back, instead of maintaining it as a single list, I will maintain it as two lists. Okay. So how do you decide which two lists to maintain? We'll see it. Initially, your list is the empty list. So you will maintain it as an empty list, comma empty list. Okay. There is a front and back, meaning there is a first half and second half or whatever. I don't know. So you'll say the front portion of the list and the back half of the list. Think of it that way. Yeah. So you will maintain it as two halves, except that the back half you will maintain it in reverse. Yeah. So your original Q itself is just front plus reverse of back. This much you understand?
Right, sir. I get it. Yeah.
Now, why do you do this? So that to make NQ simpler. NQ of XQ is nothing but, if you think of your Q, you should add X at the end. So that is Q plus X, but Q itself is front plus reverse of back. So you write this, but the plus is as a associativity is there for plus. So you push the parenthesis to the other side, but reverse of anything, any list, plus a single element is nothing but reverse of that element followed by the list. Okay. So it is reverse of X colon back. Okay. So this is what. So I am maintaining just the front and back portion. So if I have to NQ X in the pair front back, the result will be front comma X colon back. Okay. So now I have done this. What about DQ? Let us just derive it. DQ of
So what is the meaning of the front comma back?
A front comma back is just two lists. No? Instead of maintaining it as one list, I am maintaining as two lists.
Oh, okay.
What do you mean? What is the meaning? No, sorry.
Sir, I mean NQ was acting on
No,
an
no,
element.
NQ was acting on queues. Okay, so earlier NQ would have been acting on queue. Now NQ will instead act on, so I have to put a queue. Now I am saying I am going to change my whole representation. Instead of new type QA equals QA, whatever, I'll change it to data. So let me go ahead and do it. I'll change it to data QA equals Q of pair A, comma A. Now do you understand?
Okay, sir. So we change the whole definition.
I'm going to change the whole representation, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Now once I do this, now it is, now if I just say deriving show, it will show it as two lists. Whereas I should actually, now this Q will be FB, front back. And now I should say show F plus plus show of reverse of that. Or in other words, show of
Yes, sir. I get it.
right? You get it. In fact, actually, it is useful to have a to list also. From list, similarly, to list. You can translate to list. From list is this. To list is from list is not this. I'll come to that in a minute. To list of QA to list A. To list of QFB, front back, is F plus plus reversal. Yes, so now I can just say here show to list yes, any queue to show it, I'll just convert it to list and show the list. Okay, great. NQ should actually, so your original queue is FB, and I will say the new queue will be Q F comma X colon B. Yes, okay. What about DQ? DQ, let us figure out. So DQ, if your list itself is empty, there are three cases. So one, your front and back could be just empty. Okay. In which case, you will say error. Your front might contain some element. So let us say Y colon Y colon F comma P. In this case, what will be your DQ? DQ, I said you should remove from the front, from the head of the list. So what will be the result now?
F comma B.
F comma B, right. But there is also another possibility, which is that you have DQ of no, not DQ of X, DQ from. Okay, but there is another case, which is that your first list is empty, but your back list is some list back. In this case, what do you do?
Sir, empty comma tail of P.
But you don't. Why tail of B? Tail of B won't work, no? Because remember,
Init of
the
B.
B is the
Init of
your
B.
B is in the reverse order.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
you should actually remove the last element of B.
Yes.
What do you do? At this point, what you do is you say DQ of reverse of B, comma empty list. What you do is you shift your whole back part of the list to the front. Except when you do that, you will reverse it. Okay, and then you DQ an element from that. Is this clear?
So should you output a pair?
Yes. You will output a pair. So this is fine. At this point, you will output a pair. You will output X comma. Because you don't need to worry, no, you're calling DQ anyway. You're making a recursive call in. That will go there. Okay, let me properly write it. Okay, so let me write it properly. So this is the thing that you want, right? So one possibility is that your queue has a pair of empty lists. In which case you will say error empty queue. Okay. Another possibility is that you have the first part is the empty queue and the second thing is something else, non-empty queue. Okay. In which case you will say dq of reverse of B, q reverse of B. Okay. The third possibility is that neither portions are empty, neither F nor B. So it's X colon F comma B. Something is wrong. Sorry. How did we do it for stats last time? Sorry for that. Yes, this is what we do. So, okay, so we are here, right? Sorry. Sorry about this. Okay, we are well set. One second. Yes. That's all fine. So the only errors now are not in scope kind of errors. Yeah, so is the DQ code clear? Yeah, this is the critical case. When the front part is empty, you should reverse the back part to the front part. Okay, and you will still maintain your earlier your queue is empty list plus plus reverse of B. Now your queue will be reverse of B plus plus reverse of empty. Both are the same, right? And you are dequeuing from that. Now, okay, let us complete the other definitions. So for the empty list, I will say two list empty here. From list. Okay, is empty. I am just checking whether both parts are empty. Null F and null B. Okay, and from list of any list from excess will be queue of, I'll put the list in the front portion and keep the back portion empty. Okay. This is it. Okay. So now, so why do I, so of course I'm saving some, I'm saving a cost of doing plus plus in the enqueue function, but I have to do reverse in the dequeue. So why is this trade-off okay? Do you understand the question? So let me get back to the slides. I'm saying, okay, so here a more efficient queue can be built by using two lists. Queue is always maintained to be front plus plus reverse of back. So to enqueue, you should add an element to the head of back. To dequeue, remove an element from the head of front. If front is empty, you reverse back into front and then dequeue. Okay. So the code is given here. So from list is this, to list is this, etc. Right, and so on and so forth. So enqueue is given here, dequeue is given here. Yeah, in fact, I don't even need to maintain it as a pair. Why unnecessarily? So in which case I can view it as having some two arguments. Okay, so then that cuts down a little bit on the amount of messy code I need to write. So I don't need to keep writing these parentheses, commas. Yeah, this will just make it a little cleaner. Okay, great. Okay, so now here also I'll okay, great. Okay, so this fixes this. So let's get back here. Yes. So now this is the point. So the trade-off is worth it because of something called amortized analysis. Now amortization is some accounting technique. Okay. To amortize means to spread the cost over various things. Okay. So I'll explain what it means. This is a very useful means of, this is a useful technique for analyzing programs and coming up with efficient programs. Okay. Because if you know that this kind of analysis exists, then you will think about your programs differently. So suppose you want to add, you are doing a lot of queue operations. Let us say at some point of time you have added n elements to the queue. Okay, then you will get a queue because you are going to add at the rear, right? Q1 is the first element that is added. Q2 will be added before it. Q3 will be added before it, etc., etc. So you will get this queue. Qn minus 1 dot 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 Q1. Okay, the front queue will be empty. So you started out with an empty queue and you've added n elements. This is the stage. This is the scenario. Now you want to remove an element. Okay, what should be removed now at this point? You want to dequeue. Which element will go away?
Q1.
Q1, right? But you can't just go to the end and do Q1. Instead, you will reverse it into the front portion and then you will remove the Q1. So, yes, the next time you do a DQ, it takes order n times to reverse the list. Okay, but why does it take order n time?
We have to
Because the length of the rear list is n, right? That means you have done n NQs. Okay, so the idea is this: if you do NQ n times, then the subsequent DQ will take order n time. Okay, so the order n time that the DQ takes, you can sort of distribute the cost to each NQ. Let us say each NQ takes 3 steps, 2 steps, let us say, and the DQ takes n steps, let us say, to the reverse itself. The reverse takes n steps to reverse. So the cost that it will take to reverse, you add upfront to the NQ itself. So when you NQ, you will say that, oh, instead of cost 2, I'll take cost to be 3 for each NQ. Okay. So now for a total of n NQs and then 1 DQ, what is the total cost now? Earlier, if you do n NQs, let us say each NQ costs 2 units. So it will be 2n units to do n many times the NQ operation. Okay. And then you did a DQ operation for which you have to do the reverse. Reverse takes some n units cost. Okay. So total 3n. So instead of counting it as this, what you do is you count the cost of each NQ as 3. Okay. So then the cost of each operation still remains constant. Okay. And accounting becomes easier for you. Okay. So now you'll see that each NQ takes some 3 costs some 3 units. Each DQ costs not n or whatever, but just 1 unit or 2 units or whatever, because you have to remove something from the head. That's all there is to it. Is this clear? It is just an accounting technique. Instead of attaching the cost to the reverse, you attach the cost to each NQ. You spread the cost over each NQ. Okay. This spreading the cost of one operation over many operations is called amortization, and that's a standard technique that's been a long there is a long tradition of that technique being used by various primarily in accounting, etc., to keep track of things. Okay. So that is just explained here. So if you add n elements, you get that DQ. You get a Q of this form. If you do a DQ, you will get a Q of this form. So the important point is the next n minus 1 times you do a DQ, you don't need to do any reversal or whatever. Okay, the n NQs that you did, the whole thing gets reversed, and the next n minus 1 DQ operations, you don't need to spend any cost at all. Okay, you just spend 1 unit or 2 units of cost. Okay. So another way to look at it is to look at how many times each element is touched. It is touched once when you NQ. It is touched once when you move. It is touched twice, let us say, when you remove it from the rear part of the list and put it in the front part of the list. And then it is touched one when you DQ. So at most each element is touched 4 times. Okay. So each element is touched at most 4 times. Therefore, if you do a sequence of n operations, if you do a sequence of n operations, it will be it can't be more than n NQs. So there are at most n elements, and each element is touched at most 4 times. So the total cost is 4n. Okay. Add some more change if you want. It is order n steps. Okay. So this is the point of queues. It's a nice, this also very clearly tells you that you want to hide the implementation details. Nobody outside will know that this queue is composed of 2 distinct lists. Okay. To people outside, it will all look seamless, because if you show the queue, you will show it as a single list. And as far as the users of the queue library, queue module are concerned, they will only just do NQ and DQ. That's all. Nobody ever needs to know that there are 2 lists here. Okay. So here you see that your module structure is actually hiding things. Okay. Okay, great. Now, actually, there is you can have lots of applications of queues, but let me just show you one application. I can upload the code as well as the thing. I'll quickly just present the problem alone and then tell you how queues are used. You can read the slides for the exact solution. Okay, I'll post the program also on the Moodle page. You can have fun looking it up. But this is the problem. It is from maybe not a very ancient Telugu riddle, but Telugu, it's in some old book of mathematics in Telugu. Old meaning some 2-3 centuries ago, I think, at least. Okay, and so I'm not making this whole thing up. It is as found in the book. Okay, so the story is that there are some 15 Brahmins and 15 thieves who were caught in some forest, and they had to spend a dark night at an isolated temple of Durga in some forest, let us say. At midnight, the goddess appears and says she wants to eat 15 people, okay, out of the 30. So now the way the story is written, the thieves first suggest that she should eat all the Brahmins, but then the Brahmins say that all 30 of us will stand in a circle, and then Durga will eat 9th person. Okay, every 9th person she will eat, and whoever survives goes away, because she will only eat 15 people. Whichever 15 survives, they will go away. Okay, they did this, and then they arranged the circle in a very clever way, so that after 15 people were eaten, only the Brahmins remained. Okay, so this is the story. Yeah, as you can read here. So where do queues come in here? Yeah, the story seems a little this thing, right? Point is, how do you arrange the Brahmins and thieves in a circle?
Isn't it like the assignment problem you just gave?
Yes, it is sort of like the Josephus problem. Yes. Okay, except it's a little more. Okay, it is not asking who will survive. Only 15 people will be killed, but then you want a specific set to survive. Okay, yes. Okay, just to tell you that this Josephus problem, maybe the Josephus problem originally might, I don't know what that origin is, maybe biblical or whatever, but some version has been here also. This is one version. This is the Indian version. I don't know how old this is. One has to track down the source. I took it from some source, but I have now forgotten where I picked it up from. And however much I am searching for it, I cannot find it now. So if any of the students here are Telugu, you can ask your parents or somebody to, if they know of this, or if they can search better and find out the actual source. Okay, so that's homework for you. Anyway, the point is that you can imagine the circle to be a kind of a cube. Okay, so imagine the circle with a current position. Okay, and so what the goddess will do is she will start eating people, each 9th people, right? So she'll go clockwise. Okay, so you can think of the people starting from that position, from the current position, and going clockwise. Okay, and so the person in the current position will be the head of the list, and then the list goes on. The point is that you will go around and around the list. Okay, okay, the person to the left of the original person will be the last element in the list. That is fine. So to move one step clockwise means that you should change the position. Okay, but you can also think that the list itself is being pushed to the left, or you can think of changing the position. But if you change the position, what will happen? Originally there is a head, then there is a next element. The next element will become the head, right? And the original head will become the tail. This is the point. So when you move right, if your list is x colon xs, after you move right, the list should be xs plus plus x. Do you see it? Yeah, you have so think, imagine a circle. You want to move one step to the right. Now the present head will now become the tail. Okay, and whatever was the second element will now become the head, and otherwise it will be unchanged. So this is the operation. Okay, and now you see this plus plus. Okay, so instead of doing it this way, you can maintain it as a queue. That is all. Okay, and the queue, we know that internally the queue is represented as 2 lists, etc. I see some things on the chat. Why will it take order n cube time to do? I am not going to do plus plus. That is what I am trying to say. I will re-implement move right to be,
No. I actually replied to Shom, who suggested that select leader problem.
Okay, okay.
That would take ON cube time. So
Okay. No, also the select leader problem won't be applied now, because the select leader thing, you want to kill everybody. Here I will have to stop.
No, sir, the select leader prime function gives all the lists. So the 15th list would give all the positions.
No, yeah, I agree. Yes. Sure. Yeah, so now the efficient queue, if you have, then you can avoid the plus operator and do it this way. Move right of q is nothing but let x comma q prime equals dq of q. So you dq the q, so you extract the first head and then you enqueue it, you put it at the end. That's all. Okay, except you are not actually doing the plus, you are doing a more this thing. And once you have this idea, then the Vanadurga problem, as I call it, itself is like simple. I mean, not simple, you have to get an idea, but I want to move on to other topics. So what I'll do is I'll leave this in your this thing. This is the key idea, that you see various places you have to enqueue, etc. You dequeue something and then you enqueue. So queue is very crucially used here to get a efficient solution. If you can get a more efficient solution, please do attempt it and tell me. Okay, I will upload this on the Moodle page. Okay, so the whole program, so you can check out, you can try it out for various numbers, etc. Okay, so yeah, but this is an interesting problem. It's an interesting use of queues. Okay, so any questions so far? I mean, admittedly, I have not presented the solution of this puzzle itself, but yes, you can read it up on your own. I will post the code there. There is no conceptual difficulty there. It is just a difficulty of, that's just problem solving. Okay, it is no, Haskell shouldn't prevent you from understanding. Okay, any other questions on queues themselves? Yeah, okay. So we have already introduced recursive data types because we saw that exp, etc. But let's systematically see it. Okay. So recursive data type T is one in which some components have the same type T. Okay, like exp that we had. Exp was either leaf of int or node exp of exp. Okay, so similarly here. So some of the constructors of a recursive data type T have T among their input types as well as the return types. Okay, like node, for instance. Node is of type exp arrow, op arrow, exp arrow, exp. Okay, but that tree was not the simplest kind of recursive data type. And somebody asked this question about natural numbers, etc. earlier. Vijay, did you ask it, or I don't know? So who asked it? If they are still here, you can.
Sir, I did, sir.
Who, Milan?
Sorry, yes, sir.
No, who, Milan only, no?
Milan, sir.
Okay, good. So here is your this thing. Okay, this is the simplest recursive data type. So data nat. So you can have one constructor 0, which stands for 0, of course, and then you can have successor of a nat. Okay, because a natural number is either 0 or a successor of something. Right. So here you will see that 0 is a constructor of type, is a value constructor of type nat. This suck is a value constructor of type nat arrow. Is it clear, Milan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now you can do various functions on this. You can ask whether something is 0, and this is pattern matching. Okay, so is 0 of 0 is true, is 0 of anything else is false. Predecessor you can do, but of course 0 does not have a natural number as a predecessor. So we'll have to have our own definition. We'll say that predecessor of 0 is 0, let us say. But predecessor of successor of n is n. Okay, so the predecessor function you can define. What else can you do? Addition you can define recursively. Plus of m0 is m, plus of m and successor of n is successor of plus m. Multiplication you can define similarly. Mult of m0 is 0, mult of m and successor of n is plus m mult m. Okay, this is all standard stuff, except you can define natural numbers also as your own data type. Okay, but when you are doing it, you are restricting the type. You see, you are only doing 0 or more. And right, you don't want to. So if you just say deriving show, then if you type something and it will print like some long thing, you don't want that to happen. So you will you'll turn it to int and then you'll do it. Turning it to int is simple. So turn to int of 0 is just 0, the integer 0, which is the built-in integer, and turn to int of successor of n is turn to int n plus 1. Okay, this is the integer addition. Okay, this is nat. Okay, whereas this is integer. Okay, So when you want to show something, you will just show the integer version of it. You can also do it the other way. So instead of calling it turn to int, I'll say to int. I can also do a from int. If I read an integer, I will do this thing, and right, I can also do that, and maybe I should show you how to do that. Right here, I'm saying show equals show dot turn to int. The left show has type nat arrow string, the right show has type int arrow string, because you turned it to int and then you're. Let me quickly install all this nat business here. Deriving EQ order, I can automatically do an order. Okay, then I'm saying instance show this, and you can say okay, great. You can also do a from int.
Sir, how does it interpret the to int n? I mean,
What do you mean by how does it interpret the to int?
so I mean to int successor of n, we write it as to int n plus 1.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So ultimately it will lead to 0.
Yeah, to int. Yeah, ultimately the base case is 0. No?
Okay, okay.
Sir, before in the show, if we do not convert it into ordinary integers before showing it, then will it print out a long list of
Yeah, it will print out
success?
long thing. Show 0. It will print.
Okay. Okay.
Right, you don't want that. That is why. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, you have to do successor of from int n minus 1. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this I can convert from int to int, and then I said pred. Of course, this is very inefficient. Okay, because you are sort of representing numbers in unary, but I'm just showing that you can do natural numbers if you want. Pred of 0 is 0. Pred of successor of n equals n. And you can define all kinds of things. Add which we define there, NAT arrow, NAT arrow, NAT. Okay, and so on and so forth. You can do all this. Let me just bring up the okay. So you are able to get things like this. Okay, and you can do various things like this. Okay, and if you ask for the type of it, it is NAT. Okay, even though it is printing out 27 because it's converting to integer and 20. Yes. Okay. So right, that's one example. Here is another example. The next level, let us say, this is list. Your lists that you had are also an example of a recursive data type. A list of elements of type A is either nil, which is the empty list, or it is cons is the name of the constructor applied on an element of type A and a list of type A, list of elements of type. Yeah. This is just the built-in type list. Okay, and you can have functions like this. Head is a function of type list A arrow A. Head of cons x anything is x, but your list could be empty. Head of nil is undefined. You will get an exception. Or if you are working with VS Code, it will complain of non-exhaustive patterns. So you can define your own versions. For instance, you can define a safe head by saying list A arrow may be A. Okay, and it will say that if head of nil is nothing and head of cons x something is just x. You can modify your definition like this, and you can define all kinds of other things on the base, just like you define recursive functions on normal list. You can define it on this list data type that you have defined. So if you want, you can define your this is just to tell you that the underlying lists that are in Haskell are themselves implemented in this fashion only. Okay. Okay. Now let's get on to the next more interesting thing, which is trees. We have already seen a kind of a tree structure when we did expressions. We said expressions are a kind of tree, and so I don't need to really belabor the point here. A binary tree is here. We'll consider a slightly different structure. Your binary tree can either be empty or a node containing some element, and there is a left and a right subtree. Right. So that's a binary tree. Okay. So basically, we'll consider a slightly different kind of binary tree. Binary tree where every node will store an element. Okay. Your tree is either nil, which is the empty tree, or it is node where this is the left subtree, this is the element at the node, this is the value at the node, and this is the right subtree. So every node will have a left subtree, a value, and another right subtree. Okay. So there are two constructors: nil, which is of type B-tree A, node whose type is B-tree A, arrow A. This is the B-tree A, arrow A, arrow B-tree A, arrow B-tree A. That is the result type. Finally, yeah. Here are some examples. So node, the root is 3. Okay, the value is 3. The left subtree is node nil to nil. The right subtree is node nil to nil, nil 5 nil. Is it clear? Any questions? Yeah. Here is another binary tree. Node, the root is 6. The left subtree is node nil node nil 4 nil. The right subtree is node 3 and its left subtree is node nil 2 nil. Its right subtree is node nil 5. Yeah. So you can write binary trees like this.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, what do you need nil for?
Nil is to say that there is nothing. So you might have an empty tree, tree without anything.
Okay, so in this case, the elements are just 6, 4, 2, 5. 6, 4, 3, 2, 5.
Yeah, right. The elements are just 6, 4, 3, 2, 5. So when you
Okay.
write, when you draw the trees, you will usually omit. When you draw the tree, you will usually omit these nil ones, the red ones here. Okay, the red nodes here. You will only draw it like this. But implicitly in your data structure, you will always, every node will always have 2 children. Okay, if the children is missing, the child is missing, it means that the child is nil. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here is a binary tree. Here is yet another binary tree. What do you think is the representation of this in Haskell? Node of some left subtree and then the root is 3 and then some right subtree. The left subtree is node of
Nil 1, nil 1, 2.
nil 1 and the right subtree is nil 1 and the right subtree is node nil 2 nil.
Nil 2.
Yeah. See, node, the left subtree is node nil 1, node nil 2 nil. The right subtree is node nil 4 nil, and then after the 5 you will have nil. Is it clear?
Sir,
Yes, please, Srimati. Yes.
the type of node is, I mean, you wrote B tree to B tree to.
B tree A, arrow B tree A, arrow B tree A. So you see that node has 3 arguments. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
And here also 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Somebody else has a question? Okay, so you can write several nice functions on this thing. Let me go to code, and I think yeah, you can sparingly come back here. So data B tree A equals nil or node B tree A, let me just say deriving EQ as well as show for now. Okay, great. And yeah, so let me define a first function. Size.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, just for clarifying, I mean, previously when we were discussing tree, in that case, if we had expressions like this, like node nil A nil, those were actually being represented as leaf A, right?
Right. That is you can write it in any way you want. That is what I'm saying. There, with expressions, you don't explicitly want to consider nil, etc. There, all the operation, there are no missing children. That is the point.
Okay.
When you write expressions, if you have plus, you will have both arguments.
Okay, sir.
Right? There are no missing children. That is why.
Oh, yes.
Whereas when you write general trees, you can have missing children. So that's why I'm writing it like this.
Okay, sir.
Arithmetic expressions are an example of what are called complete binary trees, right? And also note that there are 2 kinds of elements stored. The leaves store numbers, the internal nodes store operations. Okay, whereas that is not the case here. Every node stores a number. Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so size. I want to calculate the size, which is the number of nodes in a tree. Okay, so. And this is, we know how to do recursion on lists. Therefore, we know how to do recursion on B trees. Pattern matching. So, Srimati, can you tell what the first pattern is?
So when you have nil.
You say 0.
Yeah, 0.
Size of node, the tree on the left, the value, and the tree on the right is what?
So you do size TL plus 1 plus size TR.
Great, that's it. So you can, yeah, you can do things like this. Height, let us say. Height meaning the length of the longest path from the root to any leaf. Height of nil is 0. This is the easy case. Height of node TL is what?
So can we use max?
Yes, you can use.
I mean, max of height of node TL V nil.
No, why do you say not TL? Just TL. TL itself is the tree of type B tree, B3A, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, you do the maximum and then you add one. Right? Great. So you can do this. Now, slightly more challenging. I want to define reflect. Okay. You want to reflect the tree on its vertical axis. Meaning, if you have a tree like this, to reflect it means the right subtree should go to the left and the left subtree should go to the right. But that should also be recursively reflected, which means that it will be 5, 3, 2. Okay. Yeah. So the whole thing is reflected. So it is 5, 3, 2 like this, then 6 there and 4. Is it clear?
Yes,
And that's also simple because all you need to say is that reflect reflect of nil is just nil. There is nothing to reflect. Reflect of node TLXTR is node reflect of TR X reflect of TR. And these are all some simple functions, right? Let's look at something more challenging, mildly more challenging. Levels. Okay, I want to list nodes of the tree level by level, by which I mean this. If I have a tree like this, then I should list it as 3, 1, 5, 2, 4. Is it clear what I want to do? 3, 1, 5, 2, 4. So if I do levels of T is 3, 1, 5, 2, 4. Yes, so this is what I want to do. So my levels is B3A arrow listing. Okay, so what I will say is that instead of producing one list, I'll produce one list for every level. One list for this level, one list for this level, one list for this level, etc. And then finally, I'll concat all those lists. That is my idea. So levels of a tree is nothing but levels prime, concat of levels prime of T. Okay, levels prime itself is B3A now and arrow list of A. Okay, because I have a list for every level, I'll have a list of elements in that node. So I'll have that large list. Why do I need to do it this way? We'll see in a minute. So what is levels prime of nil? There is nothing in this level, right? So empty list, but it's not empty list. It is empty list consisting of empty list. I'm sorry, it is the list consisting of empty list. Is that what you want to do? No, just empty list. Okay. Levels prime of node. This is why it is. Okay, this is why it makes it simple. So how do you do this now? You originally, so TL will have its own list of levels, nodes at each level. TR will have its own list of nodes at each level. But what will be the list at the topmost level?
It will be empty.
Why should it be empty? There is the X, V or whatever I call.
So I mean, if we consider a single level, then
No, I don't understand. Can you please repeat? Why do you think it should be empty?
So it should be list X, right?
Exactly, it should be just list X. Okay, that is the list of elements at the topmost level, because the root is there. Okay, that is the list of elements at the topmost level, followed by what? You have two list of lists, right? One from the left and one from the right. So you will have to join them somehow. The only thing is that when you join them, it is like so it is like doing zip width of plus plus, except that one tree might be taller than the other tree, so there might be some levels missing in one of the trees, in which case if you just do zip width, it will zip width, remember, will, if one tree is taller than the other, it will just eat up the things, right? So what you need to do is you should write your own function called join, let us say. Okay, join of levels prime of TL levels prime of T R, where, so let me just join as a list of A, arrow list of A, arrow list of A, and this is what happens. So join of you've reached the end of one list and you've come to YSS, then you should retain YSS. Okay, that is the point. Whereas if you did zip width, it will make it empty list. Okay, if you run out of elements in one list, it will make it the empty list. Okay, that is the problem. Join of XSS empty list equals XSS, and the interesting case, join of XS colon XSS, Ys colon YSS equals XS plus plus Ys followed by join of so this is exactly like zip width plus plus. Okay, I have a list of lists on one hand, I have a list of lists on the other hand. I want to add up the corresponding ones, except if I do zip width, it will not proceed if one of the lists comes to an end. So I am doing it this way. So I think I will need to parenthesis. Okay, great. So that is basically it. So now if I actually do okay, great. So okay, now still it is terrible for us to actually write out lists, because I have to write out a tree. If I have to write out a tree, I'll have to say things like here is tree 1. I'll have to write things like, oh, node of nil, node nil 1, nil 3. Extremely painful, right? So what I want is, I want a function that converts from okay, fine. So I want a function that converts from list to B tree. Okay, this is what I want. From list, I'll call it, or create tree. Okay, great. So create tree of empty list is what? I want to create a tree, some random tree with these inputs.
Nil.
Okay. So create tree of x's. There are various choices I can make. I can, for instance, say if it's x colon x's, I will say node x, node nil x create tree x's I can do. Is it clear? So this is one choice.
Sir, can we do according to the levels?
There is no level. No, there are levels only after you create a tree. Where is level?
Okay.
This is
So, I mean, I was thinking that if we are given a list and we can read off a tree according to the rule that we.
It is asking me to do some folder. But this is not very efficient, because this is really like a list. Your tree will be skewed. You see, there will be your tree will have such a tree will be, it is just like having a list. Typically trees should be balanced, right? It would be nicer if the trees are balanced. Look at these examples, right? So there are some 2 elements in the left subtree, 2 elements in the right subtree. Whereas in that scheme, there will be 1 element in the left subtree and then all the other elements will be in the right subtree. Okay, you don't want that. And recursively, the same thing will keep happening. So if you want some kind of balance, then here is something that you can do. Create tree x is equals, okay, node left tree x right tree, where let's say n is the length of the tree, the length of the list, and let's say m is n div 2. Okay, and f equals take n, fb equals split at m of x's. Now, if x's is exactly one element, where will that element go? Will it go to f or b?
F.
F, why f? Remember what is split at? Split at is take m axis, comma, drop m axis. When n is of length 1, then m will be 0. So take 0 will be just the empty list. Okay. So this FB will have this invariant that either length of f and length of b are the same, or length of b is exactly one more than length of f. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Why am I saying this? Because therefore, instead of writing it as b, you can write it as x colon b. That is my x. Okay. The second, when you do a split at, the second part will at least have one element, because my original x's is non-empty. This x's is non-empty. Okay. So when you split at m, then you will have an f here, and then you will have an x colon b there. That is my x here. Now, what is my TL and TR? Can you guess? This I can write here itself. I'll create a tree with F, and I'll create a tree with B. Those are my, yes, those are smaller lists. That's it. Okay. Now I'll get a much more balanced thing. Okay. So, right. So let me just get to here and reload, and let's say create tree from the list 0 to 15, let us say 0 to 14. Okay, so now, I mean, it will print like this. I need a better show. Till I have a show, it won't be very clear to you what is happening, but I can try out on smaller numbers. Yeah, you see that 3 is the root. Okay, and the left subtree will have 1 at the root, 0 to its left, and 2 here. And similarly, the right subtree will have 5, 4 to its left, and 6 to its left. Okay, so it's a very balanced tree. 3 is on top, and then left subtree will have 0, 1, 2. 0 will be left, 1 will be root, 2 will be to the right, and right subtree will have 4, 5, 6. Okay, that itself will be 4 to the left, 5 at the root, and 6 to the left. Is it clear? So now I can actually do levels of it. Okay, I'll get 3. 3 is the root, remember. And then at the next level, you have 1 and 5. And then at the next level, you have 0, 2, 4, 6. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, great. But now this create tree will take order n squared time to create a tree on order n squared, order n log n, something. We have written the thing. This is all fine. Height of create tree of this thing will be 4 actually. You have 15 elements being stored, but the height is only 4. Okay, which means that you are maintaining some amount of balance. Okay, but the time taken is order n log n, because length will take time order n, split at will take time order n. So your recursion is 2 times t n by 2 plus order n. So it's order n log n. You can actually do a better create tree, but and the key is to avoid the repeated use of length and split at. But I think I have covered enough material already for today. No? So maybe just the smarter create tree and the show part I'll do in the next class, right? Because you need some time to digest all the material. I promise to give you an assignment soon, okay? Within today or tomorrow.
Excuse me, sir.
It will be about input output and maybe a couple of questions about trees, etc. Yes.
Sir, can you please explain what's a balanced binary tree once again?
Balanced binary tree is something that looks like this. See, this is the root, the left subtree. I need to go to the iPad. If I go to the iPad, I can. But yeah, so it's.
Sir, we can take the first element and put it as the root, then next two elements as the.
Yeah, 1 minute. Let me just stop sharing this and go to the. Sorry about this. I just wanted to be able to write code quickly, which is why I just shared the laptop.
Can balanced trees be defined as where the left subtree and right subtree, the number of nodes differs at most by 1?
Right. Yeah, you can define it like that, but I just wanted to just write some pictures to illustrate the difference. So yes, so remember that we originally suggested this thing, no? That if you have a create tree, if you apply this and say create tree, then what you will get is that this is remember 0.0:1.6, right? So your thing will be node nil 0 and then create tree of 1.6. But this thing itself will be node nil 1. Right, and this thing itself will be whatever. This thing itself will be right. So who asked this question about balanced? At least this is clear. So it will turn out that if you do it this whole way and if you draw it as a tree, it will be a tree that looks like this.
Yes, sir. It will be just one direction.
Yeah, that is extreme imbalance. Okay. Whereas if you did it the way we do it, so you will have 0 here and then 1 here and then you see the point? Yeah, and like he said,
yes, I get it.
That the left subtree and the right subtree should differ by at most 1 node. And then they should also themselves be balanced recursively. Okay. And then you have weight balance, height balance, lots of other kinds of balances. One looser thing that you want is that the left subtree and right subtree, their height should differ by at most 1. Okay. And then they themselves should be height balanced. Okay, you see the idea now?
Yes, sir. Yes, I get it now. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, so there are a couple of things in trees left, which the code is up there on this thing. The code for that Vanadurga thing is also there in the slides themselves. You can just copy the code and figure out how to work with it. We will meet next week. By that time, I'll give you some exercise problems just to practice. And yeah, so are there any other questions? I hope the material is clear till now at least. Nothing too difficult. I mean, you've already seen recursive data types. You've seen data types. It is just the same old recursion. Okay, it's normal. Okay, except that these data structures are very versatile, so you can use them in lots of applications, lots of concepts. They are very useful. They are quite powerful because they are versatile. But the programming part is reasonably straightforward. I mean, there is nothing very magical or anything about it yet. Okay. 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 So if there are no more questions, then have a nice evening. Have a nice weekend. See you next week. Yeah. Bye bye. So please contact the TAs if you want any tutorial sessions, etc. We'll arrange for some. If you want me to take some tutorials also, please write me a mail. I'll organize it. Yeah. Okay.
Sir, can you add elements on trees?
Can I
add elements on trees?
I want to add elements to trees. Yes, we'll look at all that in the next class. We'll look at not just trees, but trees where you maintain certain extra properties, etc. So that it becomes even more useful. Okay. Then we'll see how to add, etc. Yes, we can add. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. See you then. Yeah. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, sir.